Welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show from Middlesex Community College in Middletown. I'm Stephen Minkler, Academic Dean at the college, sitting in today for President Anna Wesesha. But I'm delighted to be joined in studio today by two of our students who are in our brand new honors program, Rebekah Roy and Ben Gelfand. Nice to see you guys.
Thanks.
You as well.
Nice to see you too.
I think our listeners would love to know a little bit about each of you, where you're from, and maybe what high school you went to and what brought you to Middlesex. So, Becca, I know you live in Middletown now.
I do. I am a local, and I attended Middletown High School. I came to Middlesex because I wasn't quite sure what career path I wanted to take. So I'm trying some courses here, and I really enjoy it.
Okay. And Ben, you're from Madison, aren't you?
From Madison, same reason as Becca. I wasn't totally sure what I want to do, as I'm not totally sure, but I thought it'd be a good decision to come here and kind of try and figure that out, rather than go straight to a four-year college, interested in transferring in the future.
Awesome. Now, I first got to meet you guys as part of the honors program because I actually co-taught a class you took last semester, and we did a seminar on leadership. And what brought you to the honors program at the college? Was there something in particular that interested you in honors in particular, Becca?
I'm not quite sure what attracted me to the honors program, but I like it now. I really do enjoy it. I think that I was up for a challenge, and that the honors program has really provided that. I know that's very simplistic, but honest.
Okay. And Ben, one of the things that we have you do in the honors program is have you be full-time students. So you're taking 5 classes every semester. Has that been a bit of an adjustment for you and maybe some of your classmates too?
That's a good question. It has been an adjustment for me, particularly because if you're coming from high school, classes are much more demanding, in every way more challenging. They just require more time. And I think a lot of us, just to answer the question you asked before, I think a lot of people have the tendency to think that community college might be somehow less challenging. And I have to say that the honors program was very attractive in that way. It was a new thing. This was going to be an elite group of people who are all motivated. And yeah, I have to say, I don't think it's an honors program thing. I think it's a college thing. Classes are much more difficult. So you're in for a challenge whether you come to the honors program or not. That said, I love the honors program.
What do I like about the honors program?
Sure.
I really enjoy English, and I really enjoy the leadership components that have been presented throughout the honors program. I feel like it's been a collaborative effort among all divisions of the college, and I've really gotten a chance to experience a lot of different types of thinking and a lot of different perspectives that have really pushed maybe what I've thought of before I came into the honors program. So I really appreciate that.
Okay. Well, great. Well, after a short break, we'll be back with Rebekah Roy and Ben Gelfand, 2 students at Middlesex Community College. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments. I'm Stephen Minkler, Academic Dean at Middlesex Community College, and I'm here today with 2 students, Rebekah Roy and Ben Gelfand. We've been talking about their experience at Middlesex, and in particular, their experience as students in our brand new honors program. And Becca, what courses constitute the honors program, the courses that you've taken so far, together with your classmates in the honors program?
So far, I've taken 2 honors English courses, a leadership course, and I've also taken a history course as well.
Okay. Now, how does that work with what your intended major is? What are you majoring in, and how do the honors courses work with that?
I didn't know what I was majoring in when I came to Middlesex, but through definitely some of the guidance of the staff working within the honors program, I've decided that I'm majoring in English and Spanish, and my intention is to go on to become an ESL teacher.
You have a lot of interest in different languages, so Spanish that's a surprise to me. I know you also have an affinity for Russian, too.
I do have an affinity for Russian as well.
And how are you pursuing that?
I'm pursuing that by taking courses through Wesleyan. I took courses in high school through the High School Scholars Program, and I'm continuing now through the Wesleyan Scholars Program as well.
Okay. So you're able to take classes both at Middlesex and at Wesleyan.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Really ambitious, too.
Thank you.
And Ben, how has the honors program and the courses that you've taken with Becca, how have those flowed with your intended major?
Like Becca, I wasn't sure what I was going to major in when I came, and I'm still not completely sure. I'm doing general studies. It is working out well such that my advisors are giving me different paths or different ideas as to what to take. And just by chance, I took psychology, and I'm really interested in psychology. So it's very likely that becomes my major. It's worked well though, because like Becca said, English is so interesting, and history, both so interesting. Both are topics that I like a lot, and that's what the honors has us do. So and Dr. Trier is phenomenal. He really knows his stuff, as does Dr. Jones. They both really care about us. So it's, again, I think another thing about community colleges that some people might be a little on edge about is just whether there's a social atmosphere. And I think they both provide that. They both, I'm friends with Dr. Trier's son, Victor, and so we just know each other, and Dr. Trier is really nice. And Dr. Jones too. Small, tight-knit classes, and we have great discussions, and we really get involved in what each person has to say. So my worries, which was the social aspect of community college, was completely changed when I came here for those reasons.
Okay. Now, do you think being a full-time student helps you connect more with the other students in your classes because you're on campus a lot more?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
And Becca, in what ways do you think that helps? Have you been involved in some clubs or other activities?
I have been. I've been involved in our environmental science club on campus. I've also done some work with HASA, hoping to be more involved next semester. And I've also worked with Creative Writing Club, in which case I've really enjoyed bringing poetry and certain authors to campus.
Okay.
Yeah, and even the fact that now, this semester, every day, we're seeing people from honors, that has also just completely enhanced the social atmosphere. Because last semester, it was just every other day, which meant that really it was kind of the friends you made. I mean, this is from my experience. The friends I had, it was less concrete. Busyness plus not always seeing each other. Now it's busyness and always seeing each other, so it's a tight-knit group.
And I still remember the first week that we saw you in class back in the fall. Okay, so now we're near the end of the academic year, so you've been with Middlesex now almost a whole school year. But I remember that first week where we had you all in teams doing a scavenger hunt on campus. So you're like the newest students on campus trying to we had you finding the president's office, right, I think, and the enrollment office and all this. And now you're like upperclassmen pretty much. So have you been able to connect with some other students and try to show them the way around Middlesex now that you're a lot more familiar with what's going on here?
I'd say that there's some meshing. It's not the culture that you have like at a four-year college. I believe like where you have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I think there's a lot more meshing at Middlesex, and I've been able to connect with people who have just graduated and who have come back and help work here, but who are also just starting out this semester as well, and been able to encourage them and to really try and involve them on the campus as well.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I think each course that you take is for something specific. It makes it so that there's a wide spectrum of people and ages, and so you really get to connect with people who are older, younger, and at different points in their academic career. And it's really fun that way because there's a lot of diversity here, that just because of the nature of it being community college. I think because there isn't a dorm room, there aren't specific cultures, I guess, that have been set up, so the meshing is really makes it neat.
It really is unique.
And actually, that's one of the things I love about working at a community college. And this is now the third community college I've worked at, and they all have their individual character. But I think, like you're saying, it's just people with different interests, different backgrounds, all sorts of ages. It really makes it an energizing place to work, and to work with students like you and many of the students that we encounter. What's been maybe one of the most surprising things that you've learned? It doesn't have to be necessarily about Middlesex, but about something you might have learned in class, or something that maybe surprised yourself about you that you didn't know until you came here.
That's a great question. In terms of self, just the fact that, and this might be completely me, but just the fact that classes are very hard. Time management. If you're not good at time management, it's going to hurt. So it's something and I even wrote about this recently, to take a quiz for psych, how stressful is your life, and write why your life is stressful and explain what you plan on doing. And it's just the time that you need to devote to school is a real wake-up call if you haven't worked on those skills in high school. So self-development, it's my realization that I need to work on that and always be working on that.
I completely agree with what Ben said. I totally have that problem as well. However, I think my realization in college is that I really need to get organized. My room should have been my wake-up call, but I feel that my assignments have kind of taken care of that as well. And it's really pushed me to sort things out and make a schedule.
So it is similar. We both have the same one. It's like, because you're on your own, you come to college and you realize that this is now for you. Like that, I even wrote about that too. It's like, whereas before it might have been, oh, I want to impress mom and dad. Now it's not that. It's all for you. And you have to have your future in mind, because in high school, the luxury is that other than having good marks and getting into colleges, so to speak, you don't have very many responsibilities. So
they hold your hand.
Exactly.
In high school.
So your hand is no longer held, which is an interesting thing in English, because we're just learning about like resistance to change in a lot of ways. So I feel like that's why it's
culture shock.
Yeah, definitely. And we're all going through it, and we're because at the same age, at least in the honors program, and so we are always talking about the themes that we're living, really.
Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to things like your time management and organization skills, that's a lifelong battle. I can tell you, from not just being in college, but in your home life, or now when you get a job eventually, it's a constant struggle. So I hear you there. I've also noticed you were talking about your involvement with different activities around here, and I know some of your classmates have been involved in some things like computer club, where it's not just honors students. And I know you've met other people not in the honors program. Have you been able to connect maybe with people from your own towns where you grew up, or through other affinity things? I'm thinking of, Becca, like your language interest. Are there other students that you've connected with who may not necessarily be in honors, but who all are interested in languages?
I have, actually. There's one student named Molly who I've connected with in my stats class, and she's interested in Russian and quite a few other languages as well. So we've really hit it off, if you will.
Okay.
That's an interesting question too. A little bit, but I think just because of the nature of the classes I'm in, because we all are at the same age, we're all kind of trying to figure out our interests. So in how things have been going for me, there are a few friends who I think want to do the same thing as I, and we kind of relate to, but that's always up in the air, and it's I don't know if that's what I want. So I wonder if like solidifying your major helps that, but I am not there yet. So
I've made quite a few friends who have solidified other interests, but not necessarily are engaged in my major. So, for example, the environmental science club, I'm the only student who is a liberal arts and science major. And so I've been exposed to a lot of different environmental science topics, and the club's very passionate about and I care about. And so that's really pushed my interest, but it really hasn't pushed my linguistics interest so much.
Okay, well, great. Well, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more with Ben and with Becca about what we learned about leadership last semester, what some of your future plans are, and what you got going on for the summer. So Middlesex Moments will be back after Welcome back to Middlesex Moments. I'm Stephen Minkler, Academic Dean at Middlesex Community College. And again, I'm here with two students from Middlesex, Rebekah Roy and Ben Gelfand, who are in our honors program. Now, last semester, I helped co-teach the honors seminar, and we focused on leadership. And each of you picked an interesting subject to do a profile of. You were asked to find somebody maybe you knew, or a historical figure whom you thought was a leader in an area that you were interested in. And Becca, you picked author Fyodor Dostoevsky. And why did you pick him?
Other than the fact that I'm obsessed with his works, I'm not quite sure. However, I found out a lot of interesting things about him that qualified him as a leader, at least in my eyes. He brought, in his literature during the 20th century, he explored Russia, and he brought it to the people who did not want to acknowledge what Russia looked like or what it was moving towards politically or socially. And although he had many problems with just schizophrenia, and he also had some other mental issues, he did it in a very beautiful and poignant manner. And for that, I really have a lot of respect for him. And, well, I already mentioned that I love his work.
If I remember right, didn't you try to point him out almost as a countercultural figure for his day?
I believe you can make that argument. He's definitely... The Russians tend to be semi-conservative, specifically within their work. And Dostoevsky, while conservative, points out a lot of things that would not be done in that type of manner. It can be almost a liberating experience reading his work at that point in time. So it's kind of, I believe it could be counterculture.
And Ben, you profiled Benjamin Franklin as for your project.
Franklin, yeah. Very interested in Benjamin Franklin. He wrote out a list of virtues upon which he was planning on changing his life. There are arguments as to how diligently he followed the virtues, but he wrote them at 19, and I was just inspired by the whole concept of self-development, and have been, like I said, just about organizing and becoming, making sure I devote the right amount of time. Those virtues that he came up with are exactly what I need to work on myself, is just ways to most productively live. So I admire that.
I should read those values.
Yeah,
I should read those values.
13 virtues for, well, I can't remember what it's called. It's like 13 virtues to be a happier person or something like that. I can't, but yeah, no, it's great.
Well, one of the things that impressed me about both of your presentations, we were asked to write a paper about each person, but then also present to the class what you found. And both of you seemed to be really excellent storytellers. You know, you were able to tell us about your historical figure, but in a way that was really engaging to your classmates and to Dean Maslin and me when we were as your teachers. So it's interesting that you, Becca, chose a literary figure, and Franklin is a publisher and a writer. But is there something that, as students, that really appeals to you about someone who can tell a good story, or you being a good storyteller yourself?
Good storytellers don't just tell a story for themselves or for one group of people. They hit on a bunch of different aspects. Like Dostoevsky, he hits on the economic time for his period. He hits on the social aspects. He hits on his personal aspects. But then he also tells the story, and I know social, but he gets down to the nitty-gritty of society. And he but he looks at everything from crime to religion to just everything that would seem mundane. And he draws a story from it so that we get a portrait of what a life might look like at that time. And so it's a story for multiple people as opposed to just himself and one or two characters.
I think storytelling has power to it, where if you can tell a story and it has to have the message that you're trying to convey. So obviously you don't say Jack held the door for James. It has the deeper meaning that will make sense to everyone as to what you're trying to say. So if I say Benjamin Franklin went on a trip to London and he spent a lot of time there and he was a partier and he realized, oh, I'm wasting all my time. That is a brief realization that he had, an explanation of that realization that all of us ought to have. If I'm giving a speech about development, the point where you realize you should start doing this, that is tremendously inspiring. So for me, I want to tell the story so that people in their minds, they're not just hearing Benjamin Franklin wrote these 13 virtues, they're hearing Benjamin Franklin was living as he was and could point out, much like we all should be able to, the specific things that are detrimental to his values. Mm-hmm.
So would you agree with the statement that good stories not only hit on multiple aspects but good stories also tell us something about the future, like they're relevant for everyone on a continuous basis?
Yeah, so it tells us about ourselves. Yeah. I think like why people say that you should read as much as you can is because reading, literature, is a treasure trove of stories. What I say about Franklin, realizing that and writing that is a brief narrative that is in every piece of literature. Do you know what I mean? So
I do.
reading, you're just constantly seeing more and more personal development and personal realizations that put you into, as much as you read, however much you read, that many shoes. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of shoes.
Yeah.
Many shoes.
Well, I think the other thing that you both did very well in your presentations and in your papers was that it was a neat, I don't mean this in a bad way, but the neat trick of being able to make your historical figures relevant to someone today.
Exactly.
You took somebody from a different culture, or both from different times, but you were able to relay a story about each person to make it, come alive to the people in the room today in the year 2014.
Yes.
You talked about how sometimes we can learn from history and project that out for our future. So Becca Roy, honors student and a liberal arts major, language aficionado, what's in the future for you? What do you see for yourself?
I definitely want to become an ESL instructor. This summer, I'm going to be starting work with the Connecticut Literacy Volunteers, and I'll be training to teach ESL as volunteer work and also teach BL, or basic literacy, for people who read below a 6th grade reading level.
And do you plan to do that in the Middletown community?
Yes.
And Ben, how about for yourself? What do you see for yourself after Middlesex? Or
I am looking at the new school in New York City. There are a bunch of different divisions at that university. I'm actually focused on different departments at the new school. I'm really interested in psychology there, which is at the School for Social Research. I'm also interested in music there, which is at Eugene Lang New School. And thirdly, literary studies. So these are all majors, all capture what I'm interested in. This summer, I'm taking another few classes here at Middlesex to move more quickly and continue to think about what it is that I want to do. And that has really been the only school I've focused on. It just seems right. So I'll let you know how that works out.
Awesome. All right, my last question for both of you is that Middlesex Community College will be admitting its next cohort of honor students this summer. And you'll be invited to come to a luncheon where you'll meet some of the new students. And Becca, what advice would you give to an incoming Middlesex Community College honors student?
Just turn everything in on time. I think the conception, what we're talking about, it's a culture shock. And you need to prepare for that shock ahead of time. Plan to plan. And that sounds ridiculous, but just do it. Get a calendar and literally write down due dates. And then plan on working through them for the next 2 weeks. It's the best way to accomplish and kind of break that shock.
Okay. And Ben, quick.
I would say that you should work a little bit every single day on homework. Doesn't matter if it's due in 2 weeks, just do 10 minutes of it each day. Absolutely. And if you think that your parents are in some way hold similar interests for you as you hold for yourself, listen to them and take their advice.
Okay.
And try as many things as you want, as you can.
Well, thank you. I really want to thank you, Ben Gelfand and Rebekah Roy, for joining me for Middlesex Moments. And if you're interested in the honors program at Middlesex Community College, you can check that out online at www.mxcc.edu, or you can call our main number, 860-343-5800, and ask for Mensima Shabazz. She's our recruiter and advisor for the honors program. And I invite all of our listeners to check us out online, again, mxcc.edu, but better yet, visit us actually here on campus in Middletown, or at our Meriden Center, or even take a class with us this fall at Westbrook High School, where we've started doing classes on the shoreline again. So for Middlesex Community College and Middlesex Moments, I'm Stephen Minkler. Have a great day.